A child I didn't know asked me why I wasn't gone yet while we were alone at a bus station late at night. His voice was calm and even, but it sounded older than it should have, like it didn't belong to someone his age. He didn't sound confused or scared. He said it the same way someone asks why a bus hasn't arrived yet. Like me, being there was a mistake. I finish work late, so I take the last bus home every night. The station is small, 2 benches, a glass shelter with one cracked panel held together by old tape, fluorescent lights that hum and flicker, but never quite go out. At night, it's usually empty, apart from the same few people whose routines don't overlap. You learn the place by standing in it long enough. The first night I saw the boy, I didn't think much of it. He was standing near the far bench, close to the edge of the station, but not too close. Maybe 7 or 8 years old. No jacket. His hands hung at his sides. He wasn't pacing or moving around. He was just standing there, facing the road, so still that it took me a moment to notice he was breathing. I remember thinking someone must be nearby, just out of sight. A parent on the phone. Someone sitting in a car. I didn't speak to him. He didn't look at me. The bus came. I got on. I forgot about him. 2 nights later, the boy was there again. Same place, same clothes, still alone. I noticed him immediately this time. There was no reason for a child to be at the station that late, and no reason for it to be the same child. I stood near the timetable, pretending to check the screen while watching him in the reflection. He spoke without turning his head. His voice sounded old, older than it should have been, like it didn't match the rest of him. "Why aren't you gone yet?" It took me a moment to realize he meant me. I laughed quietly, more out of confusion than amusement. I assumed he was repeating something he'd heard or talking to someone else who wasn't there anymore. "Gone where?" I asked. He turned his head and looked straight at me. "From here," he said. "You shouldn't still be here." Nothing else. No explanation. The bus arrived. I got on. I didn't see where he went. I told myself not to dwell on it. Children say strange things. Late places collect strange moments. I went home and slept badly, waking up with the sense that I'd forgotten to do something important. The next time I saw him, it was raining. He was standing under the shelter, completely dry. I noticed, because everything else was wet. The concrete, the bench, my shoes. Water gathered on the ground around him but didn't touch him. I stood at the far end of the station. After a while, I realized he wasn't where he had been before. He was closer to the lights, close enough now that I could see his face clearly without trying. He spoke again. "You're still doing this." He said it calmly, like this was not the first time he had to say it, or like he expected that soon he wouldn't have to say it at all. I didn't answer. "You weren't meant to keep going," he added. I stopped breathing for a few seconds. One of the lights above the station flickered, then went out. The others kept humming. It felt like I'd missed something important I was supposed to say, but asking him about it felt wrong, like I'd be crossing a line I wouldn't be able to step back over. The bus arrived late. As it pulled in, the boy stepped back into the dark beyond the lights. I went home unsettled, but still convinced it would stop. It didn't. I kept seeing him after that. Not every night. Sometimes a few days would pass. Sometimes a week. Long enough that I'd start to think it was over. Then I'd arrive at the station and see him there again, standing where he always stood. Sometimes he was already there when I arrived. Other times he wasn't, and then he was. I never heard him approach or move. Each time I saw him again, he was a little closer than before. Close enough that I started keeping track of where he stood without meaning to. He always faced the same direction. He never looked at me unless he spoke. Each time, he said less. When he did speak, his voice sounded lighter, like he didn't want to have to be doing this anymore. You already passed this part. This already finished. You're slowing it down. He never raised his voice. He never sounded angry. He just sounded more impatient each time, like he'd been waiting for this to be over, and it wasn't ending when it should have. I stopped responding. I started standing farther down the station. I arrived later than usual. Once, I changed routes entirely, walking an extra 20 minutes to a different stop. The boy wasn't there. The relief was immediate and physical. After that, I told myself I could just keep taking the long way. But work ran late again, and I didn't feel like walking in the cold. I went back to the original station. I saw him immediately. He was closer than he had ever been, close enough that I could see the lines in his face, details I hadn't noticed before and didn't want to. You went the long way, he said, without looking at me. You still came back, he added. For a moment I couldn't breathe properly. I stood there, waiting for my body to react the way it normally would. But something stalled, as if I'd been expected to respond and no longer knew how. I didn't change routes again. One night, I arrived early and stood alone under the lights for nearly 10 minutes. The station was empty. No boy. The relief came fast before I could stop it, followed by a brief, uneasy sense that something was missing. Then, he was standing beside the bench, closer than before, close enough that I could feel him there without looking. You missed it again, he said. I'm not going to tell you again. His attention shifted, not toward me, past me, toward the road. It was there, he said. He didn't gesture. He didn't need to. And you stayed. The road was empty. No bus, no cars, just the light changing at the intersection. The bus arrived a few minutes later. The driver didn't look at me. The doors never opened. I didn't get on. The boy exhaled sharply through his nose. This isn't something you're supposed to need explained, he said. I didn't like the way he said it. I finally asked him the question I'd been avoiding. Explain what? He looked at me for a long time. You're just not meant to be here anymore, he said. The lights flickered, then went completely out. My vision blurred as my eyes struggled to adjust. For a moment, I wasn't in the station anymore. There was only darkness around me. You already left, the boy added. You just keep coming back. When the lights came back, I was standing in the same place. The station looked the same. The boy was still there. He was closer now. I looked down at my hands. They felt normal, solid. I flexed my fingers, pressed my thumb into my palm until it hurt. If I already left, I said, why am I still here? He hesitated. It was the first time I'd seen him do that. Because you didn't go far enough, he said. You stopped where you shouldn't have. I looked at the road, then back at him. What happens now? I asked. He didn't answer right away. When you finally leave, he said, you'll end up where you belong. The bus didn't come that night. I waited until the lights shut off on their own and the station went dark. The boy stepped back into the shadow beyond the edge of the station. "I don't need to come back," he said. I still go to the station. I stand under the lights and wait for a bus that sometimes comes and sometimes doesn't. I don't check the timetable anymore. The times stopped lining up weeks ago. I haven't seen the boy again. But some nights, standing there, I feel the same quiet pressure, like I'm occupying a place that isn't meant for me anymore. And I am starting to understand that one night there will be no bus at all, just a moment when I realize I was not meant to be here anymore.